Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Future Connect webinar by Reality NXT. I'm Radhanjali Rawal. I'm your host for the day. I would like to welcome all our speakers and our moderator. Today on panel, we have Mr. Rohit Gera, Managing Director, Gera Developments, Mr. Dhruv Agrawala, Founder and CEO, PropTiger, Housing and Makaan.com, Mr. Gautam Sarf, Managing Director, Mumbai, Cushman and Wakefield, Mr. Siva Krishnan, Head Residential Services and Managing Director, Chennai, JLL. Our moderator is Kritika Singh Rawat, Founder and CEO, Reality NXT. I welcome everyone here. Thank you for joining the panel. Before we begin, I would like to inform you that this session will be recorded. To all the attendees, you can drop your questions for the speakers in Q&A box. We will take the questions post the discussion. Today, the topic of discussion is channel partners have a new battle background to conquer with respect to real estate selling. Kritika, I would request you now to please take the discussion forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhanjali. So it's been 60 days of lockdown. There are trends which are now more clearer than ever. There could be an apt time to discuss the new battleground that has shaped up for channel partners across India. They're expected to do a lot of things, a lot of new things. Can they do it? And if yes, how exactly? So this is what we are here to discuss today with such an exemplary panel we have. To begin with the one very important question, which I'm sure all the brokers who have joined us today would like to know from our speakers, is one key takeaway for all the brokers that you can call as a new shift that all brokers should expect going forward. So to begin this, Mr. Rohit, if you want to start with this question.
Well, hi, it's nice to be here. I'm not sure whether there could be just one key takeaway, but I think, in my mind, I think there's a tremendous shift in terms of, certainly for the short term, in terms of what home buyers and property seekers are really looking for. And I think that is sound advice and sound insights and input. And I think brokers play a really important role for that now more than ever. I know a long time ago you used to be paid for being a pointer, so you get a pointer's fee. This apartment, this customer, put them together, and it gets done, right? I think today the brokers must be far more, add much more value, knowledge, insights to the customer, and I'm happy to talk about that as we go along.
Sure. Mr. Dhruv, you want to add anything to that?
I think one of the most important things which, brokers, companies like ours, companies, who are represented on the panel as well, I think all of us need to recognize that, post the 60-day lockdown, consumer behavior would have been fundamentally transformed, I think, forever. We all know that, whenever people advise you about forming good habits, they say do something for at least 20 days and it'll become a habit. Here we've been doing it for 60 days, sitting at home, and the amount of digital consumption that we've all undertaken has shot through the roof. Be it in the area of online education, grocery deliveries, food deliveries, webinars, interacting with our friends, doing birthday celebrations on Zoom, etc., etc. I think digital adoption has seen an acceleration which you've never seen in such a short time frame. For example, in the US, penetration of digital e-commerce or e-commerce rather, went from 13% of all retail to 27% in a span of 4 weeks. The numbers aren't out for India. I won't be surprised if the numbers saw similar acceleration. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is it is going to be a digital world more so than ever, with fundamental shifts in consumer behavior. Will be more comfortable using the internet. So one must be prepared to embrace digital technology wholeheartedly as one goes forward.
For sure. Mr. Siva, you want to join to that?
So I agree with Rohit to a great extent. I think the most important thing that a broker should have at this juncture is transformation of being a broker to an advisor. that you need to understand the whole mechanics and dynamics of the particular product in a macro view. You need to understand what's happening in the micro market. You need to understand what's happening in the city. You need to understand what's happening on the various asset classes. What's required for the customer today is confidence to buy. And that confidence will come only when you understand the market. It's no longer selling a living room or a kitchen or a toilet. You need to transform yourself from a broker to an advisor. That's the key. The key word here is advisor. And that's important. And I accept fully with Dhruv also that the transformation will happen in all aspects, right from the way you handle a customer, right from the inquiry generation to the closure. And you will see each cycle, each component changing, and digitalization is going to be one of the key aspects in the change. So in short, I think transformation needs to happen in all fronts. You need to move from a broker to an advisor in a real manner. That's the key here.
Mr. Gautam.
Thanks, Kritika. I would say that this industry per se, as Cushman & Wakefield, just as a brief introduction, we've been in this space for over 100 years now. So over these 100 years, we've survived and thrived. A lot of pandemics, we've survived the Spanish flu. So this is also another one wherein we'll evolve and survive and thrive again. And like Rohit pointed out, from being a pointer to Shiva's perspective of being an advisor to Dhruv's perspective of being tech-enabled, is primarily pointing to one thing, that your touch point with your customer is going to change significantly post-COVID, right? So the more interaction that you had physically with the customer to understand his problem and come back with solutions would completely differ what will happen in the new world. You would still require that personalized touch, but I think the world would change significantly in terms of the touch points would reduce significantly. So how do you still keep the customer engaged would be very critical.
So I want to dive a little. Unlike USA and other counterparts, we still do not have agents or brokers who have already lapped up technology very well. What they use is still superficial in India. How should they really go about developing these skill sets needed to fight this new battleground of virtual world? As we are seeing a lot of virtual site visits and everything is started to happen during this lockdown. So can we have some actionable insights for them? Let's start with Mr. Dhruv for this.
Thanks, Kritika. I think, look, there are lots of things, which can be done. I think one thing I would like to emphasize, before I go into that is while we all agree, on the panel as well, and I think there's a general acceptance of the fact that things will get more and more digital, I still maintain that as a home buyer who's buying a home for end use, people would still like to do at least one site visit before they undertake a transaction. I think the digitally, interacting with your customer is going to enable you to help the customer arrive at efficient shortlists, so that, to Gautam's point, people would want to have minimum touch points, in the entire process of buying a home. So, at the drop of a hat, they won't get out to do multiple site visits. You'll have to be very efficient on how you handle a site visit, so that with one visit, you can actually close a transaction. So I think what one needs to do is use digital to upfront a lot of the heavy lifting, which you do normally when you meet the client. You will not be afforded that luxury now going forward, because the client would want to minimize physical interaction. And this is here to stay, not only for the short term because of the fear of catching the virus, but I think, as I said, long-term habit forming, people have realized that it is possible to minimize physical interaction and still get the job done. And people would rather use that time to pursue, other interests. So a lot of the heavy lifting will happen upfront. So, for example, I think a lot of brokers still have not embraced digital marketing. So that's one thing which I think people need to universally adopt. I think India has been the slowest in terms of penetration of digital marketing amongst the broker community. That's one. Second is adoption of CRM tools. I think, managing customers on an online platform is crucial, so that you can, manage your schedule, manage your day, manage your interactions in a more systematic manner. Third is the ability to be comfortable with using digital tools. be it a video call on a platform such as Zoom, be it being able to make short videos of all your listings, because at the end of the day, as more and more people want to do short listing online and do the heavy lifting online, you need to give them the ability to do that short listing effectively. So now technologies are available for brokers to shoot efficient videos and good videos by themselves. So that needs to again be a skill set which one needs to be trained for. Now there are opportunities, various platforms, including ours, provide that facility to train brokers on these various technologies, or provided them with the tools. For example, one of the things which we do now is for our broker customers, they can initiate a video call from the seller panel which they have on housing.com to instantaneously interact with the customer through a video call. So stuff like that is you're going to see. A lot of platforms are doing it. We are not unique in that. And the quicker the brokers adopt that, the better they would be served in this new environment.
Sure. Gautam, what's your point on this? Like, what actionable insights do we have for the brokers? Because now, as the new battleground, which we discuss, is more of a virtual world.
Yeah, so Kritika, in our space, see, there are 4 broad parameters of business, how we conduct ourselves, whether it's residential or any other asset class. One is the lead generation, which is followed by site inspections, followed by negotiation and closure, right? These are the 4 broad parameters where we are. So the first and the last will probably be replaced by a lot of faceless interactions. So lead generation, like Luke pointed out, through search engine optimization, through digital world would happen, right? You would start sharing data again when a customer queries to figure out if he's a prospect. All data, which is the market intel, forecasting, history of transactions, stuff that would enable a decision making for him to move forward, would start happening. Your site visits initially would be again virtual, whether it's through drones or through video recordings that we do. Once the shortlisting is done and one is in the final decision making stage where he's no longer sitting on the fence or something, would require a physical interface again, because that's when he sees the property. It's a capital investment. Real estate is not a call you could take without seeing, touching, feeling, and believing in it, right? So that physical interface would come in at the final inspection stage. It would come in even at the negotiation stage, because at the negotiation stage, face-to-face become extremely critical to be able to understand the buyer and seller's expectations to bring about the value for both. Glass half full and half empty, right? How you see it. And for the documentation stage, as the government themselves is moving to e-governance, so your stamp duty payment, your registration, these all will start happening online. So it will be a new world with physical and digital interface, as they call it digital.
Mr. Rohit, your intake on this?
So I think adoption of digital is it's essential, right? It's imperative.
Mr. Rohit, your screen is frozen. I think your net connection.
Yeah, I think his screen.
I think he got disconnected. Just a second. I think once he joins, till then, Mr. Shiva, you want to take this?
So as all
He's joined.
Back.
Sorry, I think your net got frozen.
Yeah, I think, and this is something which everybody's going to need to get used to, right? You can just be in and out of a meeting and blame it on technology. But so I was saying, I don't know how much of what I was saying you caught, but essentially I'm saying that you'll have the early adopters of any technology and then you have the laggards. And if you want to survive, you're going to need to adopt technology. The question now for those who are the laggards is how do they actually, there's so many different options. And they need to figure out for themselves, how do you slowly get into it and accelerate your use of it? Because otherwise, you're going to be completely redundant. So I think brokers, our channel partners must adopt technology. I think that there is still some room left for those who want to engage in a narrow sort of neighborhood form of being a broker to friends and family, to who don't necessarily want to scale things up and do something in a much larger, longer term kind of perspective. I think that there is room for that as well. But if you want to do anything with scale, you want to do anything with reaching out, with distance, you want to do anything with larger numbers, I think you're going to have to adopt technology. And there's many different ways to do it. And this is really not that panel to discuss those options.
Mr. Siva, you were saying?
Completely accept with all the speakers. Migration from a current manual way of looking at things to a digital way of looking at things is extremely, extremely important. But unfortunately, the customers here will take a decision only when he touches and feels the property. And 90% of the customers are end users. And as Rohit rightly pointed out, if you want to scale up, you want to make into a larger scale in terms of the business, you need to migrate sooner or later into digital platforms. The sales cycle will break. Currently, most of the digital work has happened on lead generation, and some of the developers, close to about 10 to 15% of developers, actually have done videos and 360-degree walkthroughs and all that. I think the need of the hour is that everybody should translate into the new digital age, and the sales cycle. As currently, if you see, the lead is getting generated, the first thing that any broker does is to have a face-to-face meeting followed with a site visit. That will change. And you'll have to work with all the tools that is available in terms of the conversations and all the property videos, and then get into the site visit, and then the decision is made. So, but if you want to scale up, you don't want to be part of, you want to be part of the system, you need to transform yourself from a digital front also. It's critical.
Great. So another important thing when it comes to broker is dealing with customers. So how do you think the customer interactions are about to change? Will there be new expectation customer will have with brokers? And will there be a new changes in customer behavior towards the brokers? Gautam, if we can start with you.
Yeah, so customers' expectations would definitely rise. I think they would like to buy more services for less. So you may need to bundle more offering to the same customer when you're trying to provide him real estate solutions. The liquidity crunch would make every dollar or every penny they spend lesser and lesser in terms of exposure and expenses. So the customer's expectation would be a lot like we've been mentioning and maintaining tech-enabled, wherein the research, technology, adaptation would be required. The trust, transparency would be more important. So the communication will be a lot to do with building trust while transparently communicating to the customer. You would rely a lot on the broker partner who is honest in terms of enabling them, not from a sale perspective, but more from an advisor perspective to help him resolve this problem when it comes to real estate solutions.
Okay. Mr. Dhruv, your point on this?
Look, I think one of my views is that from a customer perspective, the expectation of a broker, as others have pointed out, will go up. As I said, consumers will want to spend less time doing meetings. So whatever information, data, knowledge you can share with consumers upfront is very important. I think Rohit made this point that people would, look to you as a knowledge provider. So be ready to, have that information at your fingertips, whether it's neighborhood data, project data, pricing data, trends, etc., which you can share with, consumers, and that will help them make the decision, much faster. I think that expectation is going to go up, that you're going to provide more value as a broker, as opposed to just sort of, trying to make the connection. I think, clearly, people are undergoing, financial difficulties. So the point which Gautam also made in terms of, value, you have to provide more services for the price you are charging. Otherwise, people, will probably want to, look at other options. One thing which I still do insist and I do believe in is that I don't think the role of the broker is going to, go away. That disintermediation is unlikely to happen, because at the end of the day, as we all know, that this is the single biggest purchase decision of a family's life, and probably a one-time or a two-time decision. And having an intermediary in there who can add value is critical. So the intermediary will be needed. but the intermediary has to up their game in terms of how they provide value to the consumer. Otherwise, they look for other options.
Mr. Shiva, you want to add?
See, just to add to Dhruv's point, the important aspect that one should have is data. And the critical aspect today, if you look at it, is that I've been tracking this residential real estate market for the last 15, 16 years. And the biggest challenge a customer finds himself is that go to one street, you have multiple price points, multiple sizing. The customer gets really confused. Unfortunately, we don't have a maximum retail price for one street for any product. So different developers come with different economics with the landlord. They might have purchased a land at different value. They might have different specifications inside. The price point varies accordingly. So the need of the hour is to have complete data to explain to the customer why the product is on a higher side, why this product is on a lower side. So along with digital data, understanding data also becomes extremely key for survival as we move forward. And again, we are all coming back to one point. You will have to transform yourself from a broker to an advisor. So you need to have data, you need to have digital, you need to be equipped with all the tools that's required to reach out the customer, equipped with full data. Otherwise, it becomes very, very difficult to move forward.
Mr. Rohit, you want to add anything to that?
Sure, and I'm happy to add a sort of developer side view on this, right? I think one piece of information, one part that we talk about is data, and there's a lot of it available. I think the kind of things that channel partners and brokers should be really looking at, and just before that, let me just dial back to the role, right, and how the role has evolved. If you look back 25 years ago, there would be few ads. We didn't have that many hoardings. In order to bring offerings to people that there are projects available, is what the role of the broker was, because that information wasn't available. You cut forward 15 years later, we had a boom. There's lots of offerings. The internet is upon us. But then there were developers who were doing all kinds of bad malpractices, and therefore it was about pointing those customers who moved from other cities or other towns into larger cities and pointing them to the right developer. Okay, so there was a trust aspect in that. Today with RERA upon us, customers have a very strong tool to get redressal for their, in case of any misdelivery. The question then is, so what is where does the broker then position himself? I think you have to add value beyond just a Google search and purely market data, which is all essential. But I think, how many workers are actually at the site across 10 different developers which are in the subset, or 5 different developers which are in the subset for that one customer. Okay, go in the morning, go in the evening. Is there concrete being poured on the site? Are that developers' staff being paid their salaries on time? Because if the developer isn't paying those salaries on time, the chances of that home being delayed, or is he defaulting on debt? And if there's going to be a default on the debt, then that customer is not going to get the home on time. And the customer today, think about it, why would he be relying on a broker? He wants somebody to guide him. And we've all talked about this. You have to become an advisor. So when you're becoming an advisor, you have to think about putting your reputation on the line. Because in tomorrow's world, and your kind of sales, these sales happen through referrals, right? So if it's your reputation that's going to be on the line for every single sale, every single deal that you consummate between a developer and a customer, you have to look at it to say, will this customer of mine get what is being promised by the developer? Has he promised so far? Does he have the tools to be able to deliver, right? Does he have the cash flow to be able to deliver? And unless and until you do that level of due diligence, keep in mind you are putting your reputation on the line every time. And I think that then becomes the most crucial success factor for future transactions. You may get away with one if the developer fails, that's fine. And you'll get away with it 1 time, 2 times. But you need to have 99% of your clients who are getting deliveries as promised. And do you take that responsibility upon yourself to verify and certify that, yes, to the best of my knowledge and belief, I believe that this developer will actually deliver what is being promised?
I totally agree. So I think the role of the developer, even with the broker, needs, basically in the broker point of view, it needs to develop and evolve for the developer, for the customer, for everyone, because as you all said, advisor is the right word. They cannot just bring a transaction happening. They need to go beyond that. Data is important, technology is important. So coming to my next question, recently PropTiger launched an end-to-end online booking facility on its portal. With Gera World app, I have been told that Mr. Rohit's vision to actually take his existing and new customer to a new experience via virtual route. JLL globally with Spark and India with their ideas platform, and Cushman and Wakefield has well been making inroads in prop tech directly or via acquisition or collaboration. So could you all talk a little about how on individual level you and your respected firms are using technology to connect with your customers, your team, and your channel partners to sell faster? So let's begin with Mr. Dhruv.
So Kritika, I think, being a technology company ourselves, I think, we obviously have been using technology in different ways, since inception. But I think even for a company like ours, what we found that this 60-day lockdown period has taught us, a lot of new things. So for example, on housing.com, we've launched a lot of things which, in the past was not there. For example, one of the facilities we are providing tenants is that they can pay rent to landlords directly through our platform using, credit card or UPI or other mechanisms. It's just a single place where they can come and make those rent payments to landlords. So it eases the burden on the tenant in a period where cash flows are challenged. You can use it to use your credit card. Of course, I don't advise not paying down those credit card bills. I think it's important to do that because interest rates are very high on a credit card. But for a short term, it does provide that relief. For a landlord, it just makes it very straightforward in terms of the rent hitting your bank account in a timely manner every month. We've instituted the ability, for developers to actually hold webinars where they can get their word out about the project, to a large audience, an interested audience who actually signs up for a webinar. We've had very, very good experience with that, wherein a lot of conversions have happened for developers through these webinars, because they get the opportunity of pretty much answering everything a consumer would want answered during a site visit. They've shared detailed presentations of the neighborhood, of the project, the amenities, what the USPs are, data around pricing, trends. So a lot of good information packed into a session, which really allows the customer to make that decision, or at least arrive at a very, very narrow shortlist, and then basically do a site visit in almost a contactless fashion, where you just show up on your own, provide yourself comfort, and that the place is okay, and go buy the stuff. We've had live drones actually on the site during the webinar, where the drones have actually shown you live the construction site, to Rohit's point, that look, construction's actually happening. People are on the site doing stuff. Also the neighboring area, plus the drone actually going into the sample apartment and doing a walkthrough with the developer's personnel on the webinar actually describing it. So, things like that have happened. As I mentioned, initiating video calling, right? Today, sellers, on our platform have the ability to reach out to a consumer at the tap of a button. We've done WhatsApp integration, which allows you to send large amounts of data using WhatsApp. So I think what we are doing from a company standpoint is, looking at all digital touch points which consumers use today, and enabling brokers to be able to be active on those touch points so that they aren't left behind. So these are some of the things which we've done, and I'm sure the others would have stuff to add as well.
Mr. Rohit, please do let us know how technology in your respected firm is, being connecting to your customers, your team, your channel partners to sell faster.
Okay, so as far as we're concerned, like you did mention, we have something called Gera World, which is our customer interfacing app. thus far, I have to say that we have not invested a whole lot in terms of using technology from a front-end sales perspective. But once we get the customer, we have invested our resources entirely into the customer experience. So once the customer comes on, from scheduling his registration, all his documents are visible online. We've done the integration with SAP, so his statement of account is available online. We've actually recently even gone ahead and integrated this with the bank. So now when a customer makes a payment digitally, the information automatically goes through the API into SAP, and from our SAP, it goes into Gera World. Look, we've had the view to say that if you're going to order something of, like, I don't know, food delivery service like Swiggy or something, right? And you're going to order something for 200 rupees, it comes onto your cell phone instantly. You go out and spend 4 lakhs or 5 lakhs, you make an installment payment to a developer, it takes you 7 to 12 days to get a receipt. I mean, what the hell sense does that make? And that's because of the number of transactions. It's all done manually. So we just put the whole thing through a digital process. Our entire child-centric management happens through Gera World. The entire warranty administration happens through Gera World. We have managed to reduce our 99% of issues can now come out through Gera World for our warranty complaints. And in 70% cases, we've eliminated the first-time site visit for the inspection. And that's because people are uploading photographs of the problem. So we've spent a lot on technology, whether it's drone shoots, even on the construction side, we've spent it on technology to deliver to the customer rather than so far acquire the customer. For acquiring the customer, I think there's lots of other digital platforms, there's lots of other tools out there. There's lots of other partners, channel partners who we place a lot of reliance on to help us acquire the customer. So our large focus thus far has been on how do you deliver a superlative experience once the customer has been acquired.
Mr. Shiva?
So Kritika, all these while, as a firm, we are invested only on the lead management system, in the sense that once a customer is acquired, how to manage that customer. All this technology, all the platform that we created internally was only for that. And we used to majorly rely on developer in terms of all the property videos and other collaterals in terms of positioning the customer. Because pre-COVID, the scenario was totally different. Acquisition of customer and deciphering the customer's needs was more important. And post-COVID, we realized that it's important that we digitalize each aspect of the customer cycle, right from lead generation to closure. As much as possible, we are trying how can we digitalize, make so that we avoid customer touch points initially, because the customer also is not very happy to meet you the day the lead is generated. So we are also transforming now. We are working with a lot of prop tech firms to see how we can digitalize the whole cycle, so that we can, once we reach out to the customer, and the entire cycle has been broken into various compartments, various parts, and we are trying to see to it that the only aspect that we want before we close the site visit and the face-to-face meeting only happen before all these elements are covered. So that's what we are currently working on. And very frank with you, till pre-COVID, we were only working on the lead management system, but the need of the hour is to work around the other aspects, including the digitization of each compartments.
Mr. Gautam?
Thanks, Ritika. So, like Shiva mentioned, being part of the same fraternity and space, there was pre-COVID world, which was search engine optimization, digital marketing, and a lot more. Fortunately enough, we also invested in a lot of virtual touring. So we tied up with software such as a Prism, wherein you could do a virtual tour in a C-suite level and explain it to the client, the pros and cons of a property. And like I mentioned earlier, you will eventually step out for the final shortlist and maybe for the negotiation conversations. But everything else was doing digital. And during the COVID time, when we realized there would be challenges post-COVID and the gamut of services from various asset classes of office, retail, resi, industrial that we are in, we started coming out with Ready Recoveryness guides, which is helping customers understand, we have something in our consulting business called the readiness barometer. So you could take a short survey to figure out, is your office or your premises ready for you to go back? So this is again digital interface for the customer perspective to understand how the new world would look like. We are piloting it on ourselves, something called the 6 feet office in Netherlands, which we're implementing across the world, which is primarily telling you how do you maintain that 1.5 meter distance. how do you channelize the entire office communication plan differently going forward while human interface continues, but at the same time you are away from each other from a infection or disease perspective. So that's there, and a lot more tech-enabled tie-ups which all of us are doing primarily to equip ourselves in the new world that we're entering.
If Kritika, if I can just jump in on something here, I think between developers and the technology providers and brokers, I think that there exists an opportunity to interface our like Salesforce, which is what we use, right, to manage our leads, right? How do we then integrate that with the kind of things that Dhruv is doing or with the others are doing, so that once you have the lead onto your system, how does it digitally automatically get transferred onto us, right? I think there is that last mile in terms of the handshake between bringing the customer from the broker or from the outside world into the developer's world, to do that in a seamless manner. I think that is still a little bit clunky right now. It's still done manually, it's still done over email or those kind of things. I think there is an opportunity there to integrate these systems where the lead then moves seamlessly out from the broker platform or the tech provider's platform directly into the developer systems. I think that's the sort of next frontier, which I think we can see some opportunities there.
So you have touched upon the right thing, which I was going to right now ask is, how automation and standardization will play an important role going forward for the brokers. So can we go about discussing all the functions and places where automation can be effective? Like how you all have mentioned the importance of leads, but what we have seen, the lead nurture, which needs to happen, is still missing, right? So the kind of standardization which we need to follow, even in the lead generation, the automation, what's your thought on this? So let's start with Mr. Rohit itself.
Okay, so here's the challenge, right? I think standardization across an industry then is everybody doing the same thing, but that's completely the opposite of this of providing a different experience, providing a value add. So I think standardization needs to happen within the organization so that they continue to do what they do over and over better and better. But I don't see how, if every single broker is providing the same standardized set of product offerings, what is somebody's USP, right? So I don't think that, I think we know that there are certain things in terms of the search, in terms of the site visit, in terms of the negotiation, different terminologies, right? Nurture, negotiate, hand over, all of that. Those things are common. But I think people need to be innovative in terms of what they're doing differently, how they add value, which is different. Because let's face it, even the broker has to compete to take that one customer to the developer. That one customer says, okay, I've got 4 brokers to select from to go to the developer with, and whoever he goes to the developer with is is when he gets paid. So there has to be a degree of uniqueness in the experience. The question is, how does that provider standardize his own process to make it repetitive, to make sure that every single customer who comes through him gets that higher level of experience? So my own view is, I don't think we should be looking at just for developers. Each of us focus on a completely different USP, on a different area. We've invested, like I said, we've invested on the customer experience and technology post-purchase. Some of my developer competitor friends have actually gone out and invested on the sales side. Each one is going to do their own thing. But standardization is about ensuring every single customer gets the same high quality experience. That's my view.
Right. So Mr. Shiva, when it comes to automation, so automation we are seeing in sales and marketing happening in real estate. So when it comes to brokers, how this automation will play an important role? Like how we are saying lead nurture, call audio scanning, even your auto reminders. So is there more to this for the brokers when it comes to automation?
So just to add to the point from Rohit, see, standardization for brokers means how organized you are. And are you engaging with the client often? The problem is that what we've seen in our fraternity is that you do farming for other asset classes. So Basically, you reach out to a client, you farm the client for a long period of time, and then at some point of time, you get the client to closure. But in residential brokerage business, what happens is that you touch base with the client, then you forget. And I don't think you do a farming with respect to resident customers. Partly one reason is that the number of customers inside a B2C business is quite large. So it's very, very difficult to touch base, engage with the customer on a structured, on a standardized manner. I think the time has come to farm the customer, to engage with the customer. How many brokers engage with the customer once you are done with the deal? And especially when you do a primary sale, you do a sale with the developer. Once the sale agreement or registration is done, then the customer is forgotten. And time has come for you to engage with the customer, facilitate the customer for all the needs till the product is given precision. And that was missing in majority of the brokers. So more than automation, other thing which is also important, all these are tools which help the brokers to make it more organized, more structured, more. You need to engage more with the customer so that you look good in front of the customer, and that there comes the data, there comes the transformation, everything happens after that. So you need to be organized. For that, all the tools becomes an enabler to become more organized. Today's world, a residential broker is highly unstructured, highly unorganized. So the need of the hour, along with the automation, is also being standardization comes here as a major role, where you need to structure yourself and organize yourself in a better manner, so that the customer is also not going to be very easy to get at this juncture. Acquisition of the customer and after sales service also is extremely, extremely important in today's world.
Mr. Dhruv, you would like to add on to this?
Yeah, look, I think, Rohit and, Siva have covered it mostly. But look, when you talk about, how do you standardize your own processes, right? Which again goes back to the, phrase Rohit used, repeatability, essentially. And how do you provide the same experience to the consumer over and over again? How do you build processes that you engage with your customers on an ongoing basis in a very structured manner? You don't suddenly, randomly decide to call some customer at a certain point in time. How do you do it in a more organized manner, in a more structured manner? How do you send out information, all the data which we spoke about, to consumers in the right format and packaged in the right way? So I think all of this points towards what I mentioned earlier on, in the webinar, towards actually having effective CRM tools. Right now, a lot of work is done by brokers, using, like Magic Black Book and a pen. I think we need to move away from that and move to a, technology environment which entails usage of a CRM. A lot of brokers use multiple channels themselves to generate leads, which they then, pursue. A lot of money is being spent on those leads. What I have noticed is brokers get leads. The 2 hot ones they call, something happens, is great. The other 10, they kind of forget about, and ultimately that's lost to competition. If one can nurture those leads, continue to engage with those leads, they may not be interested today, but they may be interested 2 months down the line. So how do you, what we call in the technology world, drip marketing, right? How do you continue to engage with the consumer at different points in time? By sending mailers at predetermined intervals, with information about the same property, about different properties which are similar to the customer's original need, data around the neighborhood that in case prices have fallen or something, which engages the consumer. But it is done with the help of technology, so you're not sort of overburdened, with all of this in your head. So if it's all in your head or your black book, you're going to forget to do those activities. But if there is a tool, there is a platform such as a CRM or customer relationship management software reminding you when to do these activities, you'll end up doing it. So a lot of B2B companies traditionally use, CRM. A lot of organized players, even in the B2C space, use CRMs. I think brokers traditionally have been, an unorganized sort of sector. So adoption has been slow. Some of the larger brokers have effectively used it, but there are enough software available out there for even smaller brokers, with whether you have a small team or whether you're operating alone, to be able to use these softwares for customer engagement. For the end of the day, the lead is the most important resource you have ultimately, and your time. and you have to manage both your time and resources and your lead extremely well. And for that, you need a software.
Mr. Gautam.
I think I've covered by all, but primarily Rohit mentioned, it's clunky. Dhruv mentioned there is a lot of information out there in our space and any other sales function space. Information is the king. Shiva was saying in terms of Farmi, so we also use Salesforce as a platform to capture all the data, but how you interface with that platform to remind you from a customer interface perspective. In residential, like somebody said, it's once the sale is done, there is no need to be in touch with that customer, right? Because he may not buy for the next couple of years. But if you are having some interface with the same customer, whether it's the referral program, whether he becoming your brand ambassador, it matters again from a CRM perspective that how you engage. So automation would help in the data sciences, wherein you understand, you segment your customers, you understand what information may be relevant for him. It may help from the perspective which research report without standardization may be relevant to the consumer that you're getting, classes they may be. So it will be all about the data science, how intelligently that's put together to make sure the customer remains curious and engaged with you as and when you engage.
So Gautam, I just want to add to that and ask that you're saying customer once the lead is closed, after that there's no engagement happening, right, from the customer with the broker. So is there any possibility in the future, what we are seeing in the Western market, in the future, is it possible that hyper-local services can be also provided by the brokers? For example, if the lead has been closed, be it for the rental or the buying house, how Urban Clap and other companies are doing, can broker get involved by, because they already have those leads which they have closed, they can get more personal and engaged with the customer with providing other services by saying that, okay, if you require particular this kind of service, I can. So in this process, what happened, the engagement is there. There'll be more leads coming in. There'll be more, interaction of other leads pouring in. I'm just throwing this out. Maybe it's not possible, but can we see this kind of future also being integrated when it comes to different services?
It's happening. It's happening across platforms. All service providers are definitely doing it. These are value-added services wherein when the customer comes to you, he requires an end-to-end solution. It is going to the extent, if it's an expat, he would like you to understand what are the international schools available, what is the fees available, what is the infrastructure in the micro market you are recommending, how close is a mall or a school, hospital or the police station or the residential distance from the office and the highway distance. So these kind of experiences will have to be provided to the customer. In some cases, you may have to subsidize it. So for example, if you're helping a customer take a home loan, maybe you need to absorb the processing fees for the sale to happen. So it may impact the margins, but unless you enable yourself to add that value add to the customer, he, like Rohit mentioned, has no need to choose you amongst the 4 options that he has. So there would be 4 brokers out there in the queue willing to service the same customer. The problem remains the same. He wants to buy an apartment. Why should he use one against the other? Is the value add services, the information, the data science, and trying to understand what his specific problem is, and also be prepared that as an advisor, there may not be a sale at the end of the engagement. I think that would differentiate as we move along.
Anyone wants to add to this?
So just to add, Kritika, why do certain individual brokers perform well and certain brokers don't perform well? The reason being is that the most difficult and challenging job for any individual broker or a small broker is to acquire customers. His ability to reach out to multiple customer touch points is extremely limited. So the brokers who does a good service with the customer create a pool of customers who will start giving you a lot of referrals. That's how some of the small time brokers or individual brokers starts doing extremely well, because their touch points extremely limited, unlike your large institutional brokers where you have the ability to reach customers, your ability to acquire customers, you have to employ multiple channels to reach out to the customer. Whereas a small time broker, it's extremely important that in a span of 24 to 36 months time, you need to create a pool of good customers who can start referring more customers. That becomes this start point of getting or acquiring new customers. So the service levels are extremely important. Engaging with the customer is extremely important, which in some cases are devoid. In some case, which is not available. That's the reason some of the local small-time brokers fizzle out over a period of time.
Can I just add something? I think Shiva used the word farming, right? I think that's an extremely important shift in mindset from being hunters to moving into a farming sort of an approach. So a hunter, if you look at it from a broker's perspective, is go out, make the kill, complete the deal, and move on, right? You do one kill. When you're hungry for the next one, you go and hunt for the next one, okay? That's true for that mindset of a hunter, whether it's for his customer or whether it's for the developer. I think the farming world is much more about relationships. It's much more long-term. So, does the broker go back and after 6 months, send 6 photographs and say, hey, look, these are the dates your 6 slabs were completed by the developer, right? To stay in touch with that customer. That builds up his relationship with that customer. And he also uses that to market himself to the next customer, right? Does he also add value to the developer? So it's the farming mindset isn't just at your customer end, it's around your business, right? So can the broker then take a much more of a farmer sort of approach, long-term relationship building, even with his developer, right? Rather than say, okay, I'm being opportunistic today, some developers offering me 3%, 4%, so let me go running there, as opposed to go to somebody who's steady track record, long-term, build a long-term rapport with his team, where you know that you'll get your commission safe, on time, every time. I think it's, we have to all stop being opportunistic and be much more long-term players to be in this industry from a long-term point of view. The moment you take the long-term view, I think you'll start adopting those digital tools. You'll start adopting the CRM tools. You'll go away from the black book, for example. You'll start looking at a much longer term sort of outlook, and that will pay dividends in the long run.
What I wanted to add to this, Kritika, is that I've found that brokers already do this. They work on building relationships. They build on working. They work on building long-term relationships. They do provide you. I still know when I got my house in Delhi, my broker helped me literally with even getting my initial gas connection and so on and so forth, right? Plus also offered to get a lot of my niggles in the apartment fixed as well. I think brokers definitely have that mindset. Many brokers do. And I think that's the right approach, as everyone has pointed out on the panel. It goes back to the sheer ability to manage that. The reason why I think half the time it doesn't happen, that, the after sales service, the continuous interaction, providing other peripheral services. If you help someone get a rental apartment, that's very easy for you to help that person with moving services, right? You don't have to rely on large platforms for that. You can do it on your own and actually make some money out of that, right, as well, and provide the customer that service, which would be highly valued in order to build a relationship. I think it goes back to the inability of the broker to just manage this sheer large database of consumers and to keep hand-holding. So clearly what happens is, once I've closed a transaction with the consumer, right, the subsequent opportunities for revenues get smaller and smaller, and the revenue opportunity which you get, as Rohit used the word in that first time kill, right, to get a client on board, the revenue opportunity is higher there. So effectively, when you're managing time on your head, you tend to gravitate towards what gives you short-term gratification more as opposed to long-term. Now that can be done away with. You can manage both the short-term and the long-term if you have the right tool at your disposal. It's not rocket science. I think all of us, have the intent, be it in my business, be it in other panelists' businesses, to provide the best service to our consumers. Sometimes we just don't have the tools and the wherewithal to do that, which is why I think technology will come in and really help people, manage their time and be able to build those long-term relationships. And it's not difficult these days with the CRM tools out there. And as I said, you don't have to use Salesforce, which is an expensive tool. And it's okay for the companies which are on the panel. But there are many smaller tools out there which you can use, which are fairly reasonable to use and will provide almost the same basic functionality, at least to begin with, that you might need.
Good, Ruth, you brought this point up because I wanted to ask, when it comes to US, UK or Dubai or any mature market, the Facebook, Google are not really solving the problem of lead generation for the agents and or the brokers, and they're trying to come up with a new way to generate leads. But what do you think is going to be the new ways for Indian brokers to generate new leads for them?
This is for me.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, lead generation, needs to happen from, across the board. I do believe that you need to do both online and offline activities. Online, obviously, slowly will start becoming the predominant method to generate leads, whether it's using real estate portals, whether it's because, the big difference, what we notice between, say, a Facebook and a Google and a real estate portal, like, in the US, you mentioned you have Zillow. In India, you have platforms like ours. So the big difference is that high intent folks come to real estate portals, while lead generated from, let's say, a Facebook might be people just browsing for something else. They see an ad, they maybe click on it. So may or may not necessarily be high intent, but the reach and the volumes are massive. So there's a lot of value there as well. So I think people have to use different, online channels to be able to generate leads, because there are a different, different segments tend to use different online channels, even social media. Younger audiences, tend to use, Snap or Instagram. Older audiences tend to use Facebook. So I think behavior is very different across, online behavior rather, is very different across different segments. So you have to pretty much have online presence across multiple channels to be able to generate those leads. And apart from that, I think, what Siva mentioned, I think the fundamental thing which we all forget is this whole business of referrals, right? See, it's a high touch business at the end of the day. It's not something which is transactional. When you end up doing a deal for a consumer, you spend a lot of time with the consumer. You're able to demonstrate the value which you add to the consumer. At the end of it all, you should be able to get at least 5 to 6 solid leads, from that particular consumer you've delighted. And that one offline channel, which is referrals, is, I think, the most underutilized by brokers. And if one can rely on that, all the good leads which you spend money on generating online and which you convert, if you can then use them to generate referrals, I think we'll go a long way in helping you build a solid business.
Right. Anyone would like to add to this? Anyone? Should I move to the last question? So my last question is the future going to be about direct marketing companies more, with developers keeping, less team out on their payrolls, or rely more on mandates given to third-party companies? This question particularly I want to ask Mr. Rohit and Gautam. Shiva, you can add on, please.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, please.
So I think, at least I can speak for myself. We are not looking at all at reducing our direct teams. We don't believe in the model of mandates. I think ICICI about 20 years ago came up with something called ICICI Direct, okay, where they tried to create one platform with multiple developers listed on it, okay, in the physical space. I think that you need somebody extremely devoted, dedicated, and believing in that product to convince somebody to buy in one project versus the other. Okay, I think you have to have motivations, which our team members have much more than somebody sitting neutral, right? There are all sorts of nuances about the product which my sales team has, my own team has, which a third party or a platform or somebody who's taken on a mandate doesn't necessarily have. And that's just not only about the product, okay? It's about what the brand represents. We found that increasingly people are coming to brands like us. It's because we are brands. It's because we've delivered in the long run. People trust what we've done, and my team can, situation to situation issue. My team can situation to situation give examples to customers of what we've done as an organization for other customers in the past, right? Therefore, that you can't outsource to somebody who doesn't have that intimate knowledge about your brand and your organization. So just on that one reason, I don't anticipate this being completely shifted out. Having said that, I don't think that there is that the importance of channel partners will at all reduce. I think they have an extremely important role to play, and they will continue to play that role, because I think customers still need that value add from a neutral, trusted advisor partner. And they provide that, and they play that role. So I think that there's a role for both. And I don't see one kind of taking over the other. That's my view.
So Shiva, I want to ask this because JLL or even company like Xanadu is getting into this direct marketing, mandate. So do you think this is something where we can see this is a future which is going to, take over in the real estate market?
So it all depends. I personally feel a lot of opportunity for mandated business across India. I strongly believe that some of the developers will start restricting themselves, limiting themselves to their core competence, which is construction, licensing, and approval process in place, and leave things like marketing and sales to professionals, because the advisor element also comes in major aspect from here. And understanding of the market, understanding of the city, understanding of the competition, understanding of the product, everything becomes important. And I, to some extent, accept what Rohit said. It can't be an entry and exit strategy that you just enter into a project. We have seen situations where people enter the project, cut the price, make the developer spend money, and get the sales in for next 3-4 months time, exit after 3-4 months time. I don't think that's mandated. A mandated business comes in when you travel along the developer right from inception to the finish. And there could be cycles of, I'm sure developers will see, there are some months where they have got good sales, some months the sales go down. And the broker or the partner should really partner with them entire cycle, right from the start to the finish. And if that happens, then it becomes mandated. Otherwise, I don't call it as a mandated business. I call it as an entry-exit business, where you enter at one point of time, make the developer spend, and that's not going to be for stay. And also it also depends upon the appetite for the developer to expand. And what we're seeing to a great extent is that the developer is restricting himself to a core competence, that is location. And 5, 6 years, 7 years back, we've seen developers moving out of cities. Then the mandated was getting a major fillip. So today, I think there will be developers, there will be opportunities where developers decide that I'll stick to my core competence. There'll be opportunity, and there'll be developers who feel that yes, I need to be every aspect, and sales and marketing is an important aspect in the developers, because there is the cash flow comes only from sales and marketing. So the crucial role, a crucial department for any developer is sales and marketing. So I don't. Some of the developers might decide that I don't want to outsource the most crucial part and element of my competence to somebody else. So it depends from developer to developer. So I think there is an opportunity for all in this scenario.
Right. Gautam?
I'll just take you to an example. When I went to a customer, or rather went to a developer asking for a mandate, and his response was, if I can flirt with all of you, or why should I marry one? Right. So it's pretty similar to the example that Rohit gave or Shiva gave. The customer himself, which is the buyer, may mandate himself to a broker depending upon his intimate relationship with the broker, who's been there for years, lived through investments, who's helped him as a guide, like Dhruv mentioned in terms of gas connection in his house, right? He may be the same broker Dhruv would call when he needs another house. That's the intimate relationship you can develop with your customers. But when it comes to landlords and developers, just taking a cue from what Shiva and Rohit said, if it's a peripheral market, if it's another city, Rohit tomorrow decides to do a development in Nagpur, he doesn't have the infrastructure or the bandwidth or the intent to pour concrete and get the direct marketing team on ground there, is where he would rely on a partner to take a mandate and run it for him. The skeletons in any product in terms of the development and everything is best known to the developer. His control is maximum when he is running the show himself, and that's why they shy away from it. And lastly, what the developer's concern generally with service providers is that, are you going to underwrite it? Because our business is only success based. So if you don't achieve the success, the flip side of it is something which we struggle or we shy away from agreeing. I mean, that's my 2 bit on it.
Thank you so much. Dhruv, you want to add anything to that?
I just want to add a small point that look, at the end of the day, it's going to be a mix, as Rohit said. There will be certain developers who are very small. They have sporadic launches. They may do one launch, in 1 year's time, or maybe even with greater intervals. So for them to maintain an effective in-house sales team may not be the smart thing to do. In which case they may have a strategy where they rely on channel partners. Now, whether it's a single channel partner through a mandate or multiple, the jury is still out, right? As to which is the more successful model. I think for large developers, with a pan-India presence, with strong brands, I think for them, or even, if you're strong regionally, the need for a mandate goes down because you do have multiple launches, brand spend which is backing you to enable your own salespeople to make that sale. So they, I think, may continue with a combination of an in-house strong direct sales team and channel partners just to give them reach. So I think you're going to see different models depending on who you are as a developer, and it's not going to be one model winning versus the other model. They're all going to coexist, I think, as we go forward.
No, I completely agree, because when it comes to mandate business, as Mr. Rohit also said, it really depends from developer point of view, like how they want to curate the whole thing. Even outsource it or do it in-house, I think it completely depends on the team as well. It completely depends where you want to start the brand building. And it can be done from the core team, as I agree with Mr. Rohit, that it needs to be done from the core team. But then again, it's completely mixed views which we are getting from everyone. So that we'll get to see how it's going to, be the future for the mandate business. So thank you so much. I will wrap this now by taking live attendee questions, because we are getting few questions and online questions. We have some. So starting from the first question is, now that we are talking about brokers transforming to advisors, what are those top 3 things he should learn? This is from a broker himself. If anyone wants to take this up.
Sure. I'll go first. I'm saying the top 3 things, primarily one is adapt to technology, because you can't ignore it. You can adapt from the perspective of it becoming an enabler. It won't take away your intimacy with your customer. As we've been mentioning as a summary from our panel discussion, a lot is about CRM, which is farming the customer. And the third thing I would say is go beyond real estate, understand your customers' pain points in real estate and otherwise to be able to help him enable taking a decision.
Anyone wants to add to that?
I think the key is fundamentals. I think you need to understand the fundamentals of real estate. Right from the currently what I've seen is that the brokers will only talk about that particular product and try to sell and push the product. I think the era of pushing the product is gone. You need to understand the product. You need to understand the micro market. You need to understand what's happening in the entire vicinity. You need to understand also about the housing loan market, whether he's eligible to buy the product or not. So every aspect of buying, he need to be equipped with. Technology, data management, everything comes as an additional kind of thing. I think the primary objective of any broker to transform him from a broker to an advisor is understanding of every aspect. And even, for example, housing loan, what is the current rate of interest? What typically we have seen is that when a customer asks for a housing loan, he immediately dials to a housing loan guy to understand more about it. You need to give the basic details, how the whole eligibility thing is done, and then call up the customer, then call up the right guy. So these all adds value to the customer, and he starts believing in you. So having trust and believing in that particular broker is important. That's the word I said, transformation from a broker to an advisor. Once he starts believing in, and in a real manner, I'm not trying to manufacture that belief. You need to genuinely understand all aspects of selling. Then he starts believing in. Then he also creates a pool of good network. We will start referring him customers on a month-on-month basis. So the key here is to transform from just selling into a complete understanding of the market.
If I can just add something really quick, I think the question that the broker should be asking is, would he buy, if it was his money, would he buy in that project? And if he would, then all he needs to do is translate for that customer via all the reasons why he would put his money in. That I think is the true test. Where if you think about that it's your money, you'll think about long term, you'll think about his brand, you'll think about quality, you'll think about location, you'll think about schools, infrastructure, all of it, if you were thinking about this being your money being put in.
Right. So the other question is from broker. How do you convince customers in India to put in their life savings and an inheritance only by looking at the product digitally? How do you protect them against frauds? I think this has been asked by everyone, a lot of brokers in this panel.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to take that question, Kritika. As I mentioned, during the panel, that at the end of the day, a home purchase decision is the single most, important purchase decision of any family's life. It's probably done once in most families' lives, or maybe twice, right? And the second thing, it is the most expensive purchase decision, highly emotionally charged. A bunch of, people get, involved. Your spouse is involved in certain cases, parents are involved, you have older children, they get involved. So clearly digital, I don't think anyone on the panel advocated digital as the only way of doing this. I think, unless you're an investor who basically collects enough information about the area and are comfortable with the developer's brand, and you're basically, getting into a property to buy and sell, I don't think, anyone's going to go out and buy a property without looking at it. So digital is only to make the process shorter and more efficient. So a lot of the heavy lifting which you do on a site visit or in an interaction can be done upfront. Providing a nicely, packaged data set which enables the customer to make a decision smartly with all the information at hand, making smarter videos, doing the initial interactions, through a video call, stuff like that, walkthroughs, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, the physical visit will be required to close the transaction, because nobody's going to, I wouldn't advocate, anyone to buy a house without taking a look at it, despite being in a business where we are fully digital. So I don't think brokers need to be worried that the whole thing will move digital completely. I think it's only about the initial interaction. It's only about the heavy lifting upfront and shortlisting. So one needn't be worried about that, and I wouldn't advocate that one should do it without looking at the property.
So I think this other question which we have received from Vishwal Wadhwani, I think we have covered, but Mr. Gera, if you want to add on anything, let me know. He's saying his mandate marketing is a very volatile type of business model. It is a high risk for the developer to shoo away local brokers as it is mandated to one. My question is, why still developers feel that is a safe and secure method of generating quick sales or momentum in the project?
So look, I think developers who have built an expertise and capability on the marketing side certainly do not like to go with farming that or outsourcing that to somebody else. You have the in-house capability, you have the team, you built your brand, so you wouldn't do it. So the people then who would feel that their core competence in the entire spectrum lies elsewhere, right? So if for example, your core competence is much more on the construction side, and you've done construction contracting with let's say the liaison and approvals, okay, and you don't have the capability on the sales side, then a developer may be enticed by hearing stories about how easy it would be for somebody else, how they will be able to bring them cash flows and make the sales, and they'll get a better pricing for them. There's also a lot of marketing in here, right? But to what we've and to be honest, we tried this in 2006 with one of the large IPCs. The model didn't work out, so it's not that we haven't tried it. But the model that we had, we also made provision for in case there was a third party broker, that broker would also get the commission. So in that case, our sole selling agent would get a smaller fee for when there was a third party broker. So we took that into account in our model. I think anybody who goes ahead and signs up with one sole selling agent purely as a single sole selling agent is making a complete blunder. I don't think that that's really the right way to go. But I think those are some of the reasons. Like in the US, and we're developing in the US as well. You can only sell when you have OC. So you're not going to build a sales team to be sitting 24/7, 365 days a year. When your projects are going to get done, when it's done, then you want to get somebody who can actually make all your sales. And it's the same thing there. They also make provision for other brokers to come in and those brokers get paid as well.
I agree completely. The last question I'm taking this, we have received more questions. I would request attendees to mail us so that we can respond to it. The last question from Niranjan Shah is, what is the budget that a developer should allocate in a percentage on sales basis for marketing companies for first home projects, vice versa, second home or plotting projects? Anyone wants to take this?
Well, if it's developer oriented, I'll give you my view. I think this is extremely location driven, right? As a developer, many brokers will come to us and say, pay a premium for this land because you'll be able to sell out here faster. The location of the land is such, it's a commercial building, you want to sell, retail and office, it's at a crossroad, it's at a great visibility location, put your board, you'll be able to sell. Okay, so obviously you're going to have a much lower marketing spend for that. But generally speaking across the board, I think a total marketing budget that we look at, including brokerage, including collateral, show flat, all online, offline, all of it is about 4% of sales.
Okay. I know I said that would be the last question, but Mr. Damien has been pushing this question for Mr. Shiva and Gautam, saying, given the increasing emphasis on dependence of technology, do you foresee the broker or the intermediary role being impacted negatively in any way?
I don't think so at all. In fact, almost all panelists was of the view saying that all the technology is going to be a tool to reach out to the customer, engage with the customer. A broker's role is going to be vital, and I don't think that's going to go away at any point of time. So I think it's going to get strengthened as we move forward. But the only thing that we are saying is that you need to adapt, you need to engage, you need to adapt with technology, you need to digitalize your whole way of functioning, you need to understand the aspects of reaching out to the customer, and that's the key. And I don't think at any point of time the broker's role is going to get diluted.
Gautam?
Kritika has covered by Shiva pretty well that yes, technology can only be an enabler going forward, and I've been maintaining from a intimate business of real estate perspective, physical interface for the final visit or the negotiation would be required. Knowledge matters in terms of understanding the product, the developer profile, the brand where you are asking them. The government has also made it very clear, right, from an era perspective, that we are in this together, we get penalized as much as a developer for any misrepresentation. These are all signs towards ensuring that the market matures in an organized way, but the role of the broker still stays. And I would leave it at that.
Thank you so much. I think our attendees also got great insights from this webinar, and this discussion had to happen because everyone wanted to know, after now 60 days of lockdown, what are the new trends, or what will be the new upcoming technology, or how broker needs to evolve. So thank you so much for everyone to come on this webinar and give us such a great insight on this. So before I wrap up, I want to take few questions from online because we've been promoting this and we got a lot of brokers responding to it. So Mridanshi will take over on the online questions.
Thank you, Kritika. So my first question is, how we secure our brokerage in current times where customers are only giving EOI and developers are giving them a good time period for full refund and registration of properties? The time period will go past 2 or 3 months. So this question has been asked by Shyam from Mumbai. So Mr. Rohit Gera, would you like to take this one?
Sure. Look, I think as far as the developer is concerned, the sale only takes place after that EOI period is done and the customer actually comes and pays. If you view yourself as a partner to the developer and your role is to make sure that the sale actually consummates and that's when you get paid, then really the consummation of the sale is when when the registration takes place. Lock yourself in with the developer, and through this period, stay in touch with that customer. Make sure that he's continues to not be swayed for that purchase that somebody else is trying to grab him and take him away with a special offer. You've made an investment. Your investment is maturing, right? Keep making sure that that investment stays in place for you to mature at the end of that 60 days or 90 days so that you get paid for it.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Shiva, would you like to add something to it?
I think nothing much. I think Rohit has covered it very well. Saying that at the end of the day, the sale is considered to be consummated only when you sign a sale agreement or the registration is done. Till that time, it's the customer still has not taken a decision. So it's fair on part of the developer that he makes the payment or brokerage once the sale is concluded, and that conclusion happens with either registration or a documentation which can be sale agreement.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gautam and Mr. Dhruv, would you like to add something to this?
Nothing from my perspective. I think Shiva and Rohit covered it well.
Likewise.
Okay, thank you. So I'll move to the next question. So next question we have is, what are the developers doing to help us with these new skill sets? There should be a session conducted by them for us. So Dhananjay from Mumbai is asking this. So any one of you would like to answer to this?
Well, I guess if it's addressed to what are developers doing, I think I'm just going to be a little blunt and say it would be great if somebody else helps you, but go and help yourself, right? There's so many tools available online. We're all locked down. This is such a great time to actually build your skills. Do it at your own time. Do it at your own pace. So much easier. And otherwise, engage with your developer. I know that we do stuff with our channel partners from time to time. Check with the developers who you're currently partnering with. I'm sure they'll have something or the other to help you.
All right. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Gautam, Mr. Shiva, Mr. Dhruv, to this?
Yeah, so it's like, yes, you have to help yourself definitely, but if you have those partner developers and relationships, you can always understand from them. They don't have necessarily the resources available, especially during the lockdown period, to reach out to the customers, right? So whether it's a promotion, I'm giving an example, right? You want to promote a specific product in a specific micro market, in a specific society, you could do it through the developer partnership, wherein you could use digital marketing, you could do search engine optimization, you could do a bit of a branding, put in some amount of your capital, something from the developer, just to generate leads and interest. And then I'm sure the developer will walk the extra mile to help you convert that trade, because that's more beneficial to him than you. So it would be whatever your ideas are that you may want to bounce it off with the developer. They are all ears in these times, because they would also want the sale to happen. And from the sale to happen perspective, everything that you contribute in his product exposure perspective to the end customer will make a lot of difference.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll take one last question now. This question is from Mr. Dhruv. Can broker admins collaborate from different catchment areas or locations to engage, share leads and transact more? Any platform enabling this, or what can be done for the collaborations? Sanjay from Mumbai is asking, sir. So yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, look, I think a lot of collaborations do happen between brokers offline, and I think our experience has been that typically in a transaction there's always unless it's a new homes transaction where you're buying directly from a developer, that typically there tends to be a single broker, right? And collaboration is not really required because at the end of the day, it's from a supply perspective, it's pretty evident where the supply is coming from. I think it's only when you have a resale transaction or a rental transaction, we've seen the need for collaboration go up. and we have seen that multiple parties do get involved. It's not necessarily a sell side broker and a buy side broker alone. Sometimes there is more than a couple of people on the sell side, is what our experience has been. There are tools for it. For example, we run a platform called BroX, called Broker Exchange, where brokers do come and put up what their listings are, and other brokers get visibility to that. So it's a broker to broker tool, and they can interact with each other if they feel that for a certain demand there is corresponding supply, and vice versa. So those platforms are out there, but what we found is that usually a lot of the challenge which brokers face in today's market is generating demand, and for that I would encourage everyone to adopt digital marketing, use tools such as the real estate portals out there, Facebook, Google, to generate that demand. But to answer your question in short, platforms like BroX enable broker to broker interactions online, which used to happen otherwise. And then there are many WhatsApp groups, as many of you are aware of, where this collaboration takes place.
All right. Thank you very much. So thank you to all the speakers for giving us insights. Thank you very much, Kritika. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us. If you have any questions related to the topic discussed, or you want to associate with us for the upcoming series of webinars, you can write to us at info@realitynxt.com. If you have by chance missed the webinar or not able to join it, we will be uploading this webinar on our social media platforms, Reality and XT, so you can watch it there. This event is brought to you by Reality and XT. This is Mridanjali Rawal signing off. Thank you.